Hello, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you on the other episode of a PFC public consultation webinar. And today we are talking about the Forest Certification System. I have here the head of PFC Latvia with me, and she will guide you through all the details. As always, my name is Hubert Inhäuser, and it's my pleasure to be your host on today's webinar. The program is the same as we usually have on these webinars. First, I will deliver a short introduction about PFC International and give some details about the international public consultation and the assessment process, what we have for our national certification systems. And then for the main part, I will hand over to Liga and let her guide us through the Latvian Forest Certification System. And of course, at the end, we will have some time for questions and answers. So with this brief introduction, let us start with my presentation. The acronym PFC stands for Program for the Endorsement of Forest Certification Systems. We are an alliance of independent national forest certification systems under the umbrella of PFC International. All of these national forest certification systems are based on PFC's sustainability benchmark standards or international standards, for example, in the case of chain of custody. Voluntary mechanism is promoting sustainable forest management through independent third-party certification. And we are very, very happy that we are the world's largest forest certification system and provider of 3/4 of the world's certified sustainably managed timber. Here we can see our global coverage. In dark green, you can see our PFC members with endorsed systems, and in light green, where we have membership, but we do not have currently endorsed systems. And just a couple of words about the Latvian Forest Certification System. The system was submitted in January for assessment. During this assessment, we are looking into whether or not the updated revised forest certification system meets the PFC requirements, and this is done through an independent assessor who is carrying out this PFC assessment. As part of this assessment, there is a 60 days international public consultation. We opened the consultation today, and there are 60 days for all the stakeholders to submit their comments on the system. So I strongly encourage everyone to submit their comments until 20th of April. That's the last day we are ready to take on these comments. All of these comments submitted to PFC International during this public consultation will be considered by the assessor in the assessment report. Here I need to know that the assessor is yet to be appointed, but during these 60 days, the assessor will be appointed, and then the assessor will take care to follow up on all these comments. So again, 60 days is available for the international public consultation for all stakeholders. The deadline is 20th of April for everyone who is interested to submit these comments. And with this, I would be happy to invite Liga Jansone, who is the head of PFC Latvia, and I'm stop sharing my screen now and ask her to deliver the presentation. Liga, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Hubert. So, hello everyone. My name is Liga Jansone and I represent PFC Latvia. And I'm happy today to present you this short presentation about Latvian standard setting process. Yeah, First of all, very briefly about PFC Latvia. The PFC Latvia was established in 1990, endorsed in 2001. After that, there was a break, almost 3 years long break from 2008 to the 2011. And as Hubert already mentioned, we submitted the documentation for the next endorsement in January of this year. Very shortly about PFC Latvia structure. We have 4 council members, including chairman, and 1 board member, and also a national secretary in the same person. Now I would like to show you some numbers about PFC Latvia certification statistics. For today, we have 14 forest management certificates, including 2 group certificates, and 7 million hectares, and it's approximately half from all Latvia forest area. Also, we have 89 COC certificates, including 18 multi-site certificates and 1 producer group. These numbers are slightly fluctuating, but they are quite stable in the past few years. Now I would like to present you very shortly some data about Latvian forestry and Latvian forestry sector, so you would have some idea about Latvian forest. In case if you are interested in more detailed information, here I show you one quite good source in English you can use if necessary. I would like to start with the fact that Latvia is the 4th most forested country in Europe, and we are quite proud about it. And as you can see in this graph, the forest area in Latvia in the last 80 years has doubled. There are quite many reasons why, but you can see here this graph shows the situation up to 2015. And the statistic data on the past year shows that now the forest coverage is approximately 53%. We have 3 main dominant species in our forest. Birch and pine covers approximately 30% each, and spruce stands covers 19%. You should remember that Latvia is Nordic country. Tree grows quite not so fast, and so the forest management cycle for the main species takes 70 to 100 years. So it's quite long-term management and long-term planning, of course. We have 23 forest types that are defined depending on soil type and moisture, but I won't go into details. I just wanted to accent that only half of our forests grows on soils with normal moisture regime. The other half are on wet, overwet, or drained soils. And annual precipitation in Latvia is approximately 700 millimeters, but evaporates only 60 to 80% from the precipitation. So we don't have a problem, but we have some problems with the water. So the water is sometimes too much, and that's the reason. That's the reason of drainage. And most draining systems were established in 1960s and 70s. The main goal was to speed up tree growth and to increase annual growth increment. As you can see in the graph, that increment of similar forest stands growing on wet peat soil is almost 4 times smaller than the same type or the same kind of forest stand, which is growing on drained peat soil. So after forest drainage, the significantly increasing. Here on this graph, you can see total growing stock volume in the last century, and it's also quite significantly increasing. Again, because of different reasons. One of reason, of course, is increasing of forest area. The other one reason would be this forest drainage, which is quite important and quite significant reason to increase stock volume. And another one, I would say, it's tree breeding or tree improvement to select better reproductive material. Here on the left side, you can see that we have approximately, and the other half is privately owned forests. And on the right side, I just wanted to accent that 60% is of private forest owners owns less than 5 hectares. So small holders dominates. And it was important to develop the standard available for smallholders too. Here you can see in the graphs on the left side timber production in million cubic meters. It's the graph, I would say it's quite stable, except the years 2009 and 2010. It was because of the economical crisis. The allowable cut volume was increased. And on the right side, you can see the forest regeneration types. Of course, we use both for seeding, planting, and natural regeneration. And we also increase our forest land area by forest establishment. And you should know that established forest plantations is allowed only in non-forest land. And mainly it happens in abandoned agriculture land. Planting trees after clear cut in the forest land is not considered as forest plantations because the regeneration is performed with local tree species. Now I would like to introduce you with our standard setting process. The forest sector in Latvia is driven by strict national regulations. Specific minimum numerical values are not included of the standard, as in most cases they are determined by laws and regulations. We started the process with a gap analysis. It was quite short because we very quickly came to the conclusion that our national scheme does not comply with the PFC international documentation due to the changes of several international benchmark standards and other relevant international documents. And our decision was to revise the Latvian National PFC Forest Management Standard and this decision was taken on the 26th of May 2020. After that, we performed stakeholder mapping. Stakeholder mapping was conducted according to Agenda 21 of the United Nations, and we defined 8 stakeholder groups: business and industry, children and youth, forest owners, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, scientific and technological community, women, and workers and trade unions. According to the definition of the United Nations, in Latvia there are no indigenous peoples, therefore they were not mapped. During the mapping process, it was concluded that there are no disadvantaged stakeholders in Latvia. After stakeholder mapping, an invitation to participate in the standard revision process was sent out to 79 stakeholders, and it was done on 20th of August 2020. The public announcement of revision of the scheme was published on the PFC Latvia website on 20th of August 2020. And all mapped stakeholders were informed via emails. Now a little bit about working group. After this public announcement, PFC Latvia received 32 stakeholder nominations. From those nominations, 13 nominations were approved as working group members. The working group comprised members from the following stakeholder groups: forest owners, business and industry, NGOs, community, workers and trade unions, local authorities. All other 19 nominations were approved as technical experts to help working group. All working group members and also technical experts were informed about their acceptance in the working group or approval as a technical experts by email on 21st of October 2020. The established working group was responsible for the revision of Latvian National PFC Forest Management Standard based on consensus. The first meeting of the working group took place on 7th of January 2021. 21 working group meetings happened in almost 1 year period. All working group meetings were organized online, and also due to the convenience and preference of the working group members. And the meetings were organized in MS Teams and were recorded. The working group reached a consensus on the content of the Latvian National PFC Forest Management Standard on 7th December 2021 and submitted the standard to PFC Latvia for further approval. Yep, sorry, some technical issues. After the consensus, the public consultations took place from the 7th of February 2022 to the 7th of April 2022. So 60 days. The public consultations was announced on the PFC Latvia website, and information was sent to all mapped stakeholders and also to all forest management certificate holders. PFC Latvia received 88 comments and proposals. There was comments and proposals from certification organizations, from forest managers, and also from environmental organizations. 3 working group meetings after public consultations was organized to consider feedback. And feedback from the public consultations considered, and the final draft was updated. All PFC Latvia responses to each comment proposal are available on the PFC Latvia website. Here is a summary of responses on feedback. Sorry, it's in Latvian, but it's just for idea how does it looks like. So for on the left side, there is an organization which submits this comment or feedback. Then there is a proposal or comment. The comments from organization, then the decision of PFC Latvia, and response or comments from a working group if there are some comments from the working group. Now about approval of the standard. The final draft of the forest management standard was approved on 21st of July 2022 in the PFC Latvia members meeting. All working group meetings were recorded, and records and minutes of meetings are available upon request. I should mention about trees outside forest. During this 1 year working group meetings, the working group developed the first draft of trees outside forest, which undergoes a public consultation. However, later the decision was taken to develop a separate standard of trees outside forest by also engaging stakeholders with experience in agroforestry practices. So we understand that we will need to establish new working group, probably larger or at least with a different kind, with Now I would like to introduce you with main changes in the revised standard. The revised standard version has new structure, namely mostly followed the PFC international benchmark structure, which is ISO high-level structure. The old version of our standard has totally different structure. We have added Appendix 1, it's plantation forests. In Latvia, plantation forests may be established only on non-forest lands if afforestation does not contradict the requirements set out in the laws and regulations and spatial development planning documents. Plantation forests are mostly established on lands that are used for agricultural production, providing additional benefits for increasing CO2 sequestration. Then also we added the Appendix 2, Ecosystem Services. It provides examples that forest managers can use for reference to identify the most significant ecosystem services in the certified area and the management operations that are aimed at achieving the goals. And also we added one Excel table, methodology for calculation of CO2 emissions. This tool is to help forest managers to calculate CO2 emissions of main forest management operations. Also, in the revised standard version, working group tried to address the scale and intensity. So the standard would be applicable also for smallholders. Developed annex to help to identify most significant ecosystem services, methodology for calculating carbon stocks and CO2 emissions. The standard version was made action-oriented and auditable. Also stressing workers' rights, even it's well covered in the laws and regulations. In the standards, there were included the new chapter about internal audit. Also, working group revised and included new definitions. For example, ecologically important forest and non-forest areas, specially protected species and working group included in revised standard version national context of forest plantations, but short-term tree plantings were left out of the standard because it will be included in the trees outside forest standard when it will be developed. One other changed in revised standard version. We made a separate document for a group certification, which is developed based on the International Group Forest Management Certification Standard. Yes, and I wanted to add that Latvian Forest Management Certification Scheme, the Forest Management Standard, but also the following documentations that has been submitted in the PFC International. So, as I already mentioned, the Appendix 1 and Appendix 2 of Forest Management Standard, and methodology for calculation of CO2 emissions. Then Group Forest Management Certification requirements. Requirements for certification bodies carrying out PFC Forest Management Certification. Standard setting, requirements for development and revision of PFC Latvia documentation. Procedure for the notification of the certification bodies. Procedure for the issuance of PFC trademark usage license. And procedure for resolving complaints and appeals. To accent that there were no disputes or complaints within the scheme revision process. That would be all from my side, and I would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Liga. It was a very detailed presentation. I really appreciate that you put the context about the Latvian forest sector, because I think this is the drainage and this issue with the precipitation is particularly interesting. I'm sitting in a country which suffers from lack of precipitation, so we would be happy to take some over from you, but it was really good to have this in a context. And also about the planted forest and how it's placed in the PFC system in Latvia. And now, of course, the floor is open for any questions from the participants. And until they are thinking, maybe I can have one. That you mentioned about the TUF, and also it's going in a separate way maybe later on. But just to ask you about what would be the target area of the implementation. Would it be the agriculture areas, or would it be more the urban areas in the Latvian context?
I would guess that it would be more agriculture areas, and as I mentioned, those short-term tree plantings.
Right.
But also we will try to include also the urban areas just for in case. But the main goal would be the agriculture area.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for this clarification. I don't see any hands raised from the floor. I also think myself that the presentation was very detailed, and I particularly forgot to mention, and thank you for having this English link about the Latvian forestry sector statistics. I definitely look it up myself to get a bit more about that. And if there's no any questions, just to double check it. Just the congratulations also from the floor for the presentation. Thank you very much, Liga, for being here with us today. And also thank you very much for preparing the presentation. Thank you all for everyone, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.